And we have Yesod joining us from Pepper to talk about the new record, Operation Irie. This is a really cool project. I'm digging this. It's giving me that straight, old school Warp Tour vibes, which is definitely hitting me right where it hurts. There's something been missing about the music scene since Warp Tour kind of went away.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. And it's like all that became Warp Tour is pretty much all the music we grew up listening to in the 90s. And even you can even throw Sublime in there because I first heard Sublime on a surf video that was the same trilogy of surf videos that I found out about Pennywise, about No Effects, about The Offspring, uh, No Use for a Name, Lagwagon, basically all the Epitaph, Fat Records, all the independent punk that was coming out during that time. So all that ended up becoming Warped Tour just was so prolific and so amazing. And then to come to the realization that it was all on independent labels and it was artist run and everything. So just the whole thing was so inspirational for us to like not only start our band but just to be introduced to so much different music because you got to understand growing up in Kona we had like one or two stores you could go buy CDs and it was mainly just mainstream music. So um I remember a funny story of like first hearing Sublime. It was the Descendants cover of Hope, and I begged my mom to fly to Oahu so we could go to this record store. Well, it was actually like they sold baseball cards, they sold CDs, they sold like comics. It was called Jellies, and I begged my mom. We flew over there, and I remember we got there, and they didn't have 40 ounces of Freedom. They had Robin the Hood, and it kind of tripped me out because I'd heard 40 ounces of Freedom, and then I heard all this 4-track stuff that was kind of like a little like it took me aback for a second, and so just the whole realization of all this independent music that was out there that was artists supporting each other and it was their own ecosystem that they had and they didn't need to rely on the major system of music and honestly it's all so synonymous with the reggae rock genre and our scene that we've created with all basically our friends and family. You know what I mean? You take it back to the early 2000s, and it was just us and Stupid, and then the Expendables come along, and then all of a sudden this genre just blossoms, and we've got our own thing going and our own ecosystem. So the fact of seeing how synonymous the two are to us was so inspiring in launching this comp and it kind of like to give you kind of the full like backstory of the comp it all started with Jeff Neeson who plays with us and I were going into our studio at Kona Town recording and just for fun we were doing like a verse and a chorus of punk rock tunes that we loved. We did No Control from Bad Religion. We had a couple of the Pennywise guys, Jim and Randy, come in and play our song Faceplant from Kona Town. So we just ended up doing like a small handful of these covers that we loved. And then we just had the inkling like, oh, we were actually going to do the Bad Religion one, but we were just going to do it just true to form, true to the original, and just as a piece to throw up on Instagram. But then we were like, we might as well try to make this our own and lay it down. So we recorded that full version instrumental, and then Cleo came in and laid down the vocals, and then we were like, oh man, that was so much fun, and it just turned into kind of like the inspiration we had from doing the house that Bradley built, where we were like, let's get all our friends and see who else is down to do some covers, and one thing led to another, and we ended up with this amazing record that's I think it's about 18 tracks. We've put out I think about 5 or so, including Micah Brown's No Use for a Name cover of International U Day, which comes out tonight at 9 p.m. Pacific time. So that'll be, I think, the 5th single from it. So, yeah, just drawing from all that inspiration and all the Warp Tours that we've done and everything. And it just seemed like it so organically happened. And usually, in my opinion, the best kind of things in art happen so organically where you're just kind of letting the art lead the way, which we were doing with these small covers that we were doing, and then it led to the Bad Religion one, and then we ended up doing another one that'll be coming out the day the record comes out on October 10th, which is the No Effects Linoleum cover. So it's just been it's just been so fun, and it's like pretty much is the epitome of why we do this. So that's just what I've been getting this whole time. It's just doing it because we love it and because it's so much fun. And in turn, that has been translating, and the reaction we've been getting from all the songs we've released so far has been far beyond our expectations. And huge shout out to all the bands that jumped on board. Um, but yeah, it's been amazing. So it's really rad, and I'm super grateful to see that our passion, fun, and inspiration is translated, and everyone's loving it.
It's got to be like a 180 moment to a certain extent because Pepper is like originated as like a punk band that plays reggae, right? So it's
Yeah,
like,
that's what I
coming
mean.
full
If you
circle
come,
back to your roots.
yeah, absolutely. If you come to a show, even to this day, like Kaleo will tell everyone, we absolutely are a punk rock band that plays reggae. Like, I mean, even if you listen to Given It, our first record, you know what I mean? There's really a lot of like few punk rock tunes on there. There's a bunch of ska tunes on there. So, um, yeah, it's just another branch of what we love, and it's absolutely full circle. And it was so rad too because we've done Warped Tour with a lot of these bands like Bad Religion, obviously, Offspring, and I've sent all the versions of their songs that any of the bands have done, and the bands are loving them. So to hear when we first put out Generator, we sent it to Mr. Brett, and Mr. Brett hit us back right away, and he was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing! I'm so psyched!" So like my
That's gonna
mind
be
was
killer.
just blown. I'm like, "Oh my God, Brett Gurwitz just said that he likes the version of his song that we did. Like, are you kidding me?" So, yeah, it's been one of those moments that just takes me back to being like a 13-year-old again, and just reliving just all that passion and just continuing it because that's all we really are is just music fans first and foremost. So it's been truly amazing, and we can't wait for you guys to hear the rest of it.
So tell me then, what's the secret to putting out a good cover? Because you want to have elements of the original in there, but you also want to have your own unique spin, but you can't stray too far from the original. There's a delicate balance that if you go too far to one side or the other, it could, be disastrous.
Yeah. I mean, I think you just nailed it. It's like making it your own in some way is definitely a huge key to that because not necessarily talking about covers, but when I think about all the brilliance of Bradley and Sublime, it's like all the pieces of songs that he brought into his songs and absolutely made them his own is like the best example I could probably give of I guess letting inspiration lead the way of your art as well. So to put out a good cover, I would say definitely making it your own, and just being authentic to what that is of yourself. You know what I mean? It's like always such a losing battle, in my opinion, when you're trying to chase something for art and you're trying to like, oh, I need to sound like this or I need to sound like that. So just authentically making it your own, and just letting your love for that song that you're covering shine through the process, and make sure you're loving it and having fun through the process because you know you assume if anyone's going to cover a song it's because they're going to pay homage and they absolutely love it. It's like even I think back to our Stitches EP, and we covered one of Mishka's songs on there, Lonely, because we had just toured with him. Uh, we met him through Slightly Stupid, and we toured with him, and we absolutely fell in love with the song. So we did our own version, and it's a little more true to his version, but it definitely was made our own, and we were able to pay our love forward for the song and whatnot. So yeah, I think that's kind of in a nutshell, just authentically making it your own.
There's so many cool covers on this record. You really have like a veritable who's who of the rock reggae scene in there. One of the ones that stands out to me is Long Beach Double All Stars covering Butthole Surfers Pepper, and I gotta say, like Opie just nails it. Like that's obviously a very unique song, and you have to have a unique take on it. And I think like Long Beach and Opie just murdered it on that song.
Oh my God, they went into some majority, not all of the artists on the compilation have been going into our studio, Kona Town Recording, and and laying down the magic there. So when the Dub Allstars went in there, and then I think they spent about 2 days, and they came out, and I was so blown away. The first thing I did was, when I heard it, I had to send it to Paul Leary, because I was like, Paul, you got to hear this, because obviously Paul Leary's produced obviously the Sublime self-titled record. He's produced Long Beach Dub Allstars. He's produced us. He's produced Slightly Stoopid. So he's well deep in our world, coming from the Butthole Surfers. So yeah, I sent it to him, and his first reaction was like, God, Opie, boys, like, can't believe you made our song better than we made it. So he was so psyched to hear it, and the whole thing, man, those horns they put on that version, and again, just making it their own, and you hear, when you listen to that song, you hear the Long Beach Dub Allstars. So yeah, and then the irony of the song being called Pepper, which was an irony in itself when
Right.
Paul Leary started working with us, because we were like, it's so funny that your band's biggest song is called Pepper. So yeah, I was so psyched and so stoked to hear when they wanted to cover that song. So it was a little bit off the cuff, a little bit, because like a lot of the songs are more in that kind of independent punk rock vein that was going through the 90s. So and obviously Butthole Surfers are just absolute, complete, iconic legends in music. So to have one of their songs on there was amazing, and then to have it covered by other absolute icons, the Long Beach Dub Allstars, was super rad, and them doing it at our studio was such an honor and whatnot. So yeah, that's one I've definitely had on repeat ever since I heard it.
And hearing Opie's story, you can check it on the peers socials as well. But hearing him sort of give the history lesson of, like, being in the studio with those guys and tattooing them, and like having that relationship with them, is just like a cool backstory that makes it all kind of comes around full circle, and it makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've been doing majority of the weeks up to leading up to the releases. I've been doing Instagram lives with whichever band is coming out that week, and I was able to get Opie and Paul Leary on an Instagram live together, and it was like, again, like, speaking of the Mr. Brett situation, like, again, I was like sitting there looking at Opie and Paul Leary having a conversation together on our Instagram live, and I was just like, again, reverted back to my 13-year-old self, just like, I can't even believe this is happening right now. Like, I'm in utter just thankful disbelief, basically. But that's, I always tell myself that if you're blowing your own mind, man, just keep going, because that's where you want to be.
And to have those sort of pinch me moments, this at this stage in your career, it's cool that you still get to experience that, right? Keeps you
Oh,
grounded, and definitely is a cool feeling to know that you still experience that.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what I strive for, is those pinch me moments, and we have been so blessed, and our career in life has been full of them, and the most awesome thing, though, and the greatest, I think, part of this whole journey, though, is, like, of course, you get to a point where you're so stoked that you can do something that you love for a living. But honestly, all the friends and all the family that we've made along the way over the last, like, over 25 years has been the highlight for me, man. It's like starting out touring with Slightly Stoopid in like 2001 or two or whatever it was, and then those guys are just our brothers, and we do anything for those guys, they do anything for us, and just everyone, they're just one dimension, but there's just endless amounts of relationships of people not even in bands. You know what I mean? Music is such a uniting force, and so needed in this world, and it's literally, I like to call it real life magic, because it makes you feel different. It affects the way you think. It affects your brain. It affects your mood. It's literally like a drug that everyone needs. So being able to be just a comma in the sentence and paragraphs and stories of music is such an honor, and it never escapes me what a blessing it is. And yeah, just looking forward to more pinch me moments, and and to keep it going. And like you said, after being in this game for so long, it's like the longevity. I'm so proud of the longevity because, you know, a lot of bands, especially that are still the same original members, it's it's a feat and it's something you don't see very often. So I'm very, very grateful and very happy and just, you know, it's like this amazing like flywheel where it's like the pinch me moments, the inspiration, the shows, the music, the magic, the people, the love. It keeps coming and it keeps feeding itself. So it's like this like epic flywheel that just like, you know, you just hope it never ends and just keep it going. And as long as we're having fun and kind of keeping that in the forefront, then I kind of think everything else falls into place, you know?
Well, if music's not fun, then why are you doing it, right?
Yeah, 1000%. It's like I was saying earlier about covering a song. It's like you're not going to cover a song unless you love it, you know. And
Yeah.
anyone else that does is probably chasing something, chasing a trend, chasing something that they believe is will lead to success. Blah blah blah. So, yeah, that's what it's all about. And I mean, that's kind of an analogy for life in general, you know.
And there's so many bands on this comp that like flip the script and like even Little Stranger doing Green Day's Brain Stew, like they completely changed that song and made it their own, which is I would like I love that about that. That they can take an iconic song like that and just make something new out of it. It's like it's almost like a remix more than a cover.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They're a huge, huge shout out to the Little Stranger guys. Such rad guys, such a rad band, and they were so on it. We hit them up, and they literally had that cover for us. Like I would say a month after we hit them up, or
Oh wow.
maybe even a little bit less. They were super psyched. They knew exactly what song they wanted to do. Obviously, they knew exactly how they wanted to execute it, and yeah, so it's like we've been sitting on that one for a long time, like a year, I think. And because obviously something like this with so many moving parts, it's like nothing happens really like directly to plan. Everything kind of comes and in waves and whatnot. So yeah, so they came with it so quick, and like it was like killing us to be sitting on that for so long because it was so rad. I was like, oh my god, I can't wait for everyone to hear this. So and it's been that song's been doing so well, and everyone's been loving it, and I'm hoping they add it to their live set because that would be so rad to catch live.
I could see that song popping off live for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I love the part where he talks about the emo guys eating all his friends at the end of the rap verse. It's so good.
The and the
Emo.
video is fantastic. If you haven't seen it, go check it out because the video is
Yeah,
great.
no, Gingy. Shout out to Gingy. Gingy crushed all the content they did releasing around the single was amazing, and it was so funny because I think it was Micah Brown because so rad to have Micah Brown have a track on the comp and Little Stranger because they were on tour all summer, and I remember after they put out the first bit of content, Micah Brown was like, "Oh, this is what you guys were doing backstage. I had no idea. It was like I was tripping out on what you guys were filming, but I guess this was it." So yeah, they're just a machine, Little Stranger. They're so rad with everything they do from top to bottom.
To be a fly on the wall, though, watching that backstage, and it would be an interesting conversation for sure.
Yeah, with a brain helmet and acoustic guitar. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And there, I feel like there's something like if you've ever been to, a Warp Tour, had a punk compilation, or had any moments of like even the more mainstream bands like Offspring, Green Day. I think there's something for everybody here, and there's some gems on here as well. Like I was stoked to see Authority Zero. Shout outs to Authority Zero. I've always thought they were one of the underrated bands. They're here with Waiting Room, and they do a killer cover of it. They've always sort of blended punk rock and reggae, going way back. And I was stoked to see them on this compilation as well.
Yeah, totally. Actually, I'm glad you brought them up because speaking of those early days of touring with Slightly Stupid, Authority Zero was right there, and they were crushing it with that One Hot Minute single was doing so good. I remember seeing it on MTV and the whole deal, and they were amazing. It was like back in the old days. It was like the Expendables were kind enough to have you up in Santa Cruz, and they would put you on some of their shows in the early days at the Catalyst because Expendable's been crushing the Catalyst since day one, basically. And then you had Authority Zero out in Arizona, who was kind enough to bring us out and play with them on their shows. So they were definitely a mainstay in those early days. So yeah, like you said, I repeat that sentiment absolutely and agree with it, that it's so rad to have them. And it's so rad to see that they've been stirring up some action lately too. They've been in Europe and whatnot. So I'm so happy to see them back around. Love those boys. Love Jason. All such good dudes. So yeah. So of course we had to hit him up to be on the comp, you know?
And I do think that Jason's like a super underrated vocalist. Like his versatility, his depth, and his ability to like to adapt on the fly. Like he really is like he has one of those veteran presences on stage where something you just can't teach. He's super talented. He's got an incredible voice.
Yeah, no, like you said, he's just underrated as a frontman in general, because like not only does he have such an amazing voice, but like you were saying, his energy and everything. When we used to tour with them a bunch, we would watch him on stage, and he would be going off so hard, and he would come, whether he was in the crowd or on the stage or whatever, he would be going off so hard and just be moving all over the place. And then he would come off stage and he'd be dripping sweat. There's 3 people in this world that sweat the most I've ever seen, and that's Brett from our band, Jason from Authority Zero, and Essay from 311. The most sweat. Those guys could refill the Hoover Dam if it ever dried up. There's so much sweat there. So when Jason would come off stage, we would always tell him it was almost like the Authority Zero, like calisthenics program, because he'd be going up there and putting out so much energy. It was like a damn workout that guy was doing, like a coordinated workout he was doing every day on stage. But that literally, all jokes aside, just shows the guy's passion and how much he loves what he does, and why we're still seeing him just crushing it out there.
And you have bands like Cydeways, who are like sort of ushering in the next generation, which like shout outs to Cydeways because their new record's incredible, but they got No Cigar here, and I think this is one of the highlights of the record as well.
Yeah, No Cigar is so rad. Millencolin in general is so rad. So it's like they're actually one of the bands. The Cydeways boys were just talking to me the other day, and they were like, "Have you guys ever toured with Millencolin?" And I was like, you know what? That's the one band that I think that we were always on separate years of Warped Tour, so we never got to tour with them. So yeah, getting to kind of interject in their path a little bit with this compilation, and having our boys from Law Records, Cydeways, cover the song was amazing. And yeah, they crushed it. And just speaking about Cydeways in general, it's like you think about bands like Cydeways or Surfer Girl, which Surfer Girl is going to be on the comp as well, and what Swayze's doing, and every music community / genre, it's going to go into different changes, and it's going to morph a little because it needs to breathe, in my opinion. So hearing this kind of like freshness with bands like that is so rad, just in general, not only just on the comp, but just in general. And I think it's really, really healthy for the scene, and just really healthy for the longevity of everything. Because like I said, any scene I think needs to breathe, and it needs to expand, and it needs to take on different life and whatnot. So shout out to all those boys for keeping it real and doing it up. And I mean, Aurora Wave obviously too is doing huge things for bringing some different colors to the rainbow of the reggae rock genre. And super rad to have Nathan on the comp too, doing his version of Ruby Soho, which him as well was so on it. I think him and Little Stranger were the 2 ones we've been sitting on for so long. So yeah, obviously you guys are loving Little Stranger, and can't wait for you guys to hear Nathan Aurora's version of Ruby Soho, which is an absolute banger, because
he's another one that can. No, and he's another one that, like, I feel like his musical palette is pretty wide, where he could, he can do the reggae stuff, he could do the pop punk stuff. He was in an emo screamo band back in the day. He can do the metalcore stuff. He's definitely a guy, shows a versatility that that is cool. And that's one of the things that I appreciate about these bands is I think every scene needs like a fresh injection of new blood, and like if you're not bringing up those younger bands, then there's nobody to sort of I guess pass the torch down.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of like the impetus of us starting Law Records was just that in general. It's like we started meeting so many rad bands that we were like, more people need to hear these bands, and hopefully they can learn from our mistakes. Like, of course every band's going to make a ton of their own mistakes because they're all just amazing learning opportunities, but us being a artist run label, it's like, that's our real hope is hopefully they can learn from some mistakes we've made in the past that we see they might encounter and whatnot. So yeah, really nurturing that kind of next generation and whatnot. And I mean, when you talk about Epitaph and Fat Records, they were a huge inspiration for us starting Law Records because we always knew Mr. Brett from Bad Religion had Epitaph, Fat Mike had Fat Records. But also, I gotta give it up and shout out Vinny from Less Than Jake because, Vinny doing Warped Tour and touring with Less Than Jake, he always, we always knew that he started Fueled by Ramen, and his story was pretty much the same. He was like, I was touring with Less Than Jake, and I just started running into all these like amazing bands. You know what I mean? So I just figured I'd start a label. So he partnered up with John Janik and started Fueled by Ramen, and they signed Fall Out Boy. And then he tells me the story about how Pete Wentz came to him and said, "Hey, I've got a friend's band. You should check them out." Gave him a CD, and it was Panic at the Disco. And then, and then he found Gym Class Heroes. So it's like that guy had the Midas touch, but that whole sentiment of being out there on the front lines, there's no better place to scout for rad music that people
Right.
should hear. You know what I'm saying? So, so that's kind of, yeah, that like what you were talking about is kind of the main reason we do what we do with Law Records.
Talk about having like a track record though, like it just those three bands alone, and then like and being able to say you played even a small part in those bands career, that your rap sheet, you're at boss level at that point.
Insane. Like the guy literally, like, he'll even admit it when I was talking to him about it. It's like he's like, literally, I just like everything was just hitting. It's like he could do no wrong. You know what I mean? Like I'm saying, getting handed Panic at the Disco from a band that's already on your label that is already seeing huge success. It's like wow, like when like lightning just continuing to strike. You know what I mean? So rad. But so and that's also, you think about like the pop punk scene and the punk scene in general, and it's like you started in the 90s, which I think I would call that the second wave of punk rock. So you started in the 90s with all like your Bad Religions. Well, I mean Bad Religions from the 80s, but just speaking of the 90s and all these prolific albums of Pennywise and NoFX and everything coming out, and that's really when punk rock went from being straight, just aggressive punk rock to having this real musical aspect to it and amazing vocal melodies and just very, very catchy tunes. And that's like the first iteration you could see where it's kind of heading towards pop punk. And then you introduce the Offspring and the Smash album, and that becomes one of the, I think it is actually the biggest independent released album of all time. And then you got Blink 182, and then you get Fueled by Ramen, and you kind of even see a little more of a progression of the space, because then you're kind of getting to the emo stuff. And then that led to like Screamo and everything. So this is all kind of what I'm talking about, where it's like the genres and the communities within the major music business in general, it's so healthy for them to breathe and to become different forms of itself. And the, like, honestly, the best way to look at that is to look at Warped Tour and look at the difference in the lineups through 20 years of Warped Tour. If you started in 95 and went through 2015, you can see the evolution and the difference in the sound and just the way things kind of turn from one thing into another.
And the one cool thing that I always loved about Warped Tour was it forced you to have an open mind. Even like everybody when they were younger in their teens, like you were very secluded in, if you were a metal kid or you were a punk kid or you were just straight up rock kid. It forced you to open your eyes and listen to music that you might not otherwise give a chance to, and go into it with an open mind. And you discover so many bands. You could do Melancholy, No Effects, Avenged Sevenfold, or Skin Dread on the same bill. It was like the lineup was just so eclectic.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And yeah, huge shout out to Kevin Lyman, because, Kevin Lyman that was is the founder of Warped Tour and whatnot. I mean, he was on the tour every summer on a bus at every show on the front lines, his hands in the dirt, just doing it. So that's what I miss most about Warped Tour, is it was truly a festival where people went to discover music. Where nowadays, I think, people are going to see what they want to hear, and I don't blame them for it. It's like festivals and concerts and whatnot. It's definitely escalated as far as the prices of tickets have gone. So I don't blame people for doing what they're doing, but it was amazing at Warped Tour because people seemed to just, maybe they knew a few bands, but they just wanted to go because they wanted to go and discover some new music. And another huge shout out to Kevin Lyman, because stemming from those bands you just mentioned, Kevin would always have like I think it was 2001, he had Morgan Heritage on the main stage of Warped Tour. So you went
It's incredible.
from the most ass-kicking punk rock to Morgan Heritage during changeover, bringing like candles and like Rastafarian like garb on stage and everything. So like, you want to talk about eclectic, like Kevin Lyman had it down. So it's like, if you wanted to literally discover any type of music, Warped Tour was the place to do it.
And it like, having lived through that and experienced it a little bit from behind the scenes as well, the community that was built, the barbecues, I remember hearing the story about you guys breaking down the stage every day. Like there was no ego with Warped Tour. It's like you're drawing, your name out of a hat. You might be selling 1 million records at the time, but it's like you might be playing at 12 o'clock one day and 6 o'clock the next day.
Absolutely. And that was always Lyman's deal, was there's no headliners. Like, yes, there's different stage assignments, but like you may be on the Maurice stage for the summer, or you may be on one of the two main stages for the summer, or you may have been on the Volcom stage for the summer, but you don't know when you're playing until you wake up that morning. So that was always so rad. And it's like, I've actually, I'm not going to mention the band, but in 2003, there was a band that blew up right before Warped Tour left. And they had obviously signed a deal to be on the Maurice stage, which is the second stage. And they kind of made a big hissy fit about being on the side stage because they had such a huge song at the time. And they made so much of a hissy fit that Kevin Lyman ended up suspending them for a week from the tour. And that I'm bringing up just because it's a prime example of what you're talking about, of the fact that there's no headliners. And it's like, if you're on Warped Tour, leave your ego at the door, or it's going to get checked by Kevin Lyman or one of the elders on the tour. I mean, that was the beauty of having someone like Fletcher on the tour. It's like if you acted like an idiot, he was going to let you know. So that sort of like community was so healthy. And because like, you think about those lessons, like you act like an idiot, you get told that you're acting like an idiot, and that's not the way to be when you're in a band and when you're representing for all these people that you're playing for. And that's things you take away from the tour and you take in life, you know what I mean? It's like, even I think about growing up surfing in Hawaii, and it's the same thing, you know what I mean? You paddle out and you act like an idiot, and worst case scenario, you're probably going to get punched or something. And it's all about respect. And the reason you probably got hassled was because you didn't have any respect. So you give respect and you get respect, and that was a huge thing, and was instilled on Warped Tour. And like I said, with Kevin Lyman, and just with all all the kind of the bands that were leading the way on that tour.
I wanted to circle back for a second. Everything that you and Pepper has done has a strong connection to family. Law Records got the name from your father's band in the 70s and early 80s. What can you tell us about your father's band? Because that must have been just an interesting time for you as a kid to be surrounded by somebody who's doing it.
Yeah, no, it was super wild. So my dad's band was called The Law. That's the Law Records logo, the actual Law like chiseled rock font. That was my dad's band's logo. And it was a trip because, we were in Kona, but my dad would be flying over to LA all the time because they were just kind of in the thick of that Sunset Strip like hair metal scene that was a trip because it seemed like you didn't necessarily have to tour. You just kind of had to blow up on the Sunset Strip back then, and everything like was gravy after that. And usually the major labels were just scouring that whole scene and whatnot. So yeah, I remember flying over, and I was super young at the time. His band probably broke up when I was like 4 or so. So I remember I have like vague memories of sitting on like the steps on the side stage watching my dad guys crush it. They used to sell out this place called the Country Club that was in the Valley all the time. It was kind of made famous by Megadeth filmed there In My Darkest Hour video at the Country Club. And yeah, there's a couple of classic stories there. So my dad guys were doing so good. Anthrax was opening up for them at the time, and they
Wow.
were my dad guys were opening up for Van Halen when Van Halen was still playing clubs, when they were playing like Gazaris and stuff like that. So they were literally right there. They ended up releasing their record. It was called None Escape. So the record was None Escape the Law, and they just as a vehicle to have something to play shows with and whatnot, they released their record on Law Records, and it was in 1983 when the record came out. But pretty soon after that, they kind of fell to all the like standard cliches of a hair metal band or a metal band in the 80s. So drugs and everything kind of got in the way, and they ended up disbanding, and my dad just ended up just back in Hawaii full time and whatnot. So it was super rad to see, but it was also a huge lesson. Like talking about other bands learning from our mistakes, it was like we were able to learn from my dad guys' mistakes kind of right off the bat because it was always a known thing of like why they broke up and whatnot. So seeing that whole thing unfold was not only rad to give us a vehicle to start our label, but it was so rad just to take as a lesson and inspiration. And the record they put out was so rad. I think you could probably find it on YouTube. But
It's not on Spotify, is it? Because I tried to find it once. I'm like, I got to check this out, and I
yeah, I don't
couldn't
think it's
find
on
it.
Spotify. I'll after we get off here, I'll see if I can do a quick dive and find it for you. But there's such rad tunes on it. It's your epic classic hair metal record. There's the sick ballad called "Chill the Wine" on there. There's a sick power tune called "The Royal Serpent of Egypt." Um, and yeah, it's filled with super rad stuff. Actually, a little fun fact: when we did the Conatown 20 Years of Conatown tour, we were doing an acoustic section, and there's another actually the main ballad on my dad's record is called "Love at First Sight." And during our acoustic section, Cleo would hand me the acoustic guitar, and I was jamming a little snippet of my dad's song "Love at First Sight" during our acoustic section of the 20 Years of Conatown tour. So if anyone was wondering why the hell is this drummer playing this picky thing on the guitar during the acoustic section, that was it. That was me covering my dad's song to honor him and his band. So full circle.
That's incredible. Well, yeah, everybody should go check that out on YouTube for sure. And your mother was a promoter back in the day, so you had like both sides of the coin, the artist side and the business side. So you were sort of getting both sides, a peek behind the curtain and in front of it as well. So
Yeah,
what was it like to see that?
yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because like my dad being so musical and just, you know, always having instruments around and always having just stuff to absorb and to just be introduced into this magic world of music was so critical. But enter my mom, and so all the big concerts were in Honolulu, usually at the Blaisdell Arena. And so my mom worked for Ken Rosine and Tom Moffat in the 80s. And whenever she would fly to Oahu, she would usually want to bring me, because I was like her little sidekick, you know what I mean? She'd like bring me with her. And I swear, kids are so funny, because it's like ungrateful, like kid at the time. Like she would be like, "No, you got to come with me to this like Bangles concert," and I'd be like, "No, mom, no." And so it'd get to the point where I was like, "No, I just want to stay in Kona, like whatever." But there would be some absolute gems, and this is what I think clicked in my brain when I was really young, because I think when I look at it now, it's what broke down the fourth wall and made me realize that all these heroes that I would listen to on the stereo were human just like me, because I got to go see Metallica on the Injustice for All tour, and I got to meet all the guys in the band. Lars gave me a drumstick, and I got guitar picks and the whole deal. I went and saw Bon Jovi on the New Jersey tour, got to meet all those guys. Tico Torres was one of the nicest guys ever. Gave me drumsticks, sat and talked to me. It was just so cool. And then the Dr. Feelgood tour, the Motley Crue tour, and I got to meet all those guys. Tommy was so rad to this little 12-year-old kid, and Vince, everyone was so cool. So I think that really like turned something in my brain where I was like, wow, I cannot believe that all these like giant heroes, and I say giant in like figuratively and literally, because when you're young like that, you see them up on stage and you literally think they're these like superhuman, like giant people. And then you meet them and you're like, oh, and like, especially like you meet like Lars, I was like, damn, he's like not that much taller than me. These are like literal, just regular humans that followed their passion. They were persistent, they were consistent, and they had an irrational pursuit of passion. And that's what led them there. So I think that I didn't realize it back then, but when I look back at it now, I know that was kind of something that made it easier for myself to jump off the cliff and chance it on doing something amazing. And man, am I grateful. And it's just such a blessing. And you know, circling back, it's like just collecting those pinch me moments.
And shout out to your mom for allowing you to have those experiences, because at 12 years old, like, yeah, I'm sure you know you see people in magazines and stuff, and you build them up as this larger than life character, but to get that you know, that perspective on them as a human is a great way to look at things and to sort of shape your reality.
Totally. And then you take that back into the music that you've been enjoying and loving, and it's just like absolute just rocket fuel on the fire. So it's like I got to go, I'm like early, like let's see, 12, I was probably like 3 years into my drumming, and I meet some of my favorite drummers of all time, and then have this realizations that, well, like I said, I wasn't having them then, but just the fact that I got to meet them, I was so stoked and just so pumped that they were so cool. And then take that back into my fandom, and just in my bedroom jamming along to these things. And like I said, just straight rocket fuel to the inspiration. So it's like, it really just, you know, I'm so thankful and so grateful for my mom and dad, and just the way the way they supported me and music, and yeah, and didn't try to hide me from anything. It's like, you know, I'm sure a lot of parents, they would see Motley Crue and be like, oh, shout out the devil, I don't know about this, man. This is like, well, and especially worshiping Satan was a huge thing back in the 80s.
Yeah.
When it first popped off, it was like, it was a big deal, and it really like drove people towards the music, because they were like, oh, I shouldn't be listening to this, I want to listen to that. So yeah, shout out to my parents for just kind of feeding that flame, and always so I mean, to tell you the truth, when I started like getting real heavy into surfing, I stopped playing drums, and my mom left my drums set up in the living room of our house, and she would like occasionally like scold me like, you better play those drums, I'm gonna sell them if you don't. And I was like so into surfing it all the time, I'd be like, go ahead, sell them. And then my friends would come over and they would be like, why don't you like to play the drums? I was like, I don't know. I just like, I spent so much time between 9 and like 12 to 13 playing with a lot of older people, like adults I was playing with, that just wanted to practice all the time and do this all the time. And so I just kind of got the burnout mixed with surfing. But my mom did not lose sight of the mission that was at hand, which it's so funny because my name, Yesod, they found it because they were hippies, and they found it in the book of Kabbalah on the tree of life, and it means the foundation. So the fact that I ended up becoming a drummer, it's like, okay, I kind of think like my parents had some real eye on, whether it was subconscious or what, had some eye on what was going to go forward. So it's like my mom never lost sight of that and kept those drums. I knew she never was going to sell them, because like me playing drums was like such a love to her, and she was just so happy that I was into music. So yeah, I literally like would only touch them when any of my friends would come over, and they'd be like, come on, show me something, or like show me how to jam like a punk rock beat, or like come on, show me how to jam along to like uh Enter Sandman, or like whatever. And that would literally be the only times when my friends would like be like, come on, come on. But then literally it was probably, I think, like discovering Sublime and like all that, like, because at that point I would call it was like that third wave of ska, like your Goldfingers and your No Doubts and your Real Big Fish. But I was always real hungry for any of like the halftime stuff, like for instance, Real Big Fish in the beer song, they kind of have like that reggae bridge to it, and that's the part I would long for. That's why Sublime was always so amazing, and 311 too. It's like 311, I would long for their reggae jams and their real stony jams. So that so that all starting to really bubble in me. And then Sublime dropped Stand By Your Van. And that's when it all changed. I think it was something about hearing the live shows and hearing the crowds and hearing the imperfections and hearing just all the magic of live music. That was when I thought to myself, I want to play music again. And then that's when Cleo and I ended up seeing each other at a party at the beach at a beach called Kahalu in I think it was early 1997, and we started talking about jamming. And he brought up, yeah, we could probably get Brett on board and go up to his mom's house and jam in his garage, and that's kind of what the start of this whole amazing journey began. So yeah, it's like all the inspiration from when I was young, little hiatus for getting super inspired and psyched on surfing, which has never died. That's always a mainstay and like a religion, basically, you know. So, but then enter back some other different forms of inspiration, and it kind of tied everything together. And now they're both one and the same. When I think of like playing drums and surfing, it's like it's the two most things that just bring you so into the moment and just bring you to exactly where you need to be. So they're pretty much, they work in concert for my life nowadays, and it's amazing.
And you're seeing so much crossover with the surf community too. Makua Rothman, Lana McNamara, Jesse James Pariah, all those guys, that are ingrained in the surfing culture are now, transitioning over to music and finding that like artistic expression or outlet for their music. So it's cool.
Yeah, totally. And it's so rad. I mean, I think of someone that surfs as well. Like just take Landon, for instance. It's like the guy comes off of winning the Eddie Aikau, one of the most prestigious surf contests in the world. And then we meet up with him at Red Rocks a few months later, and we play Red Rocks. And he was gracious enough to jump on stage and do a part in Stone Love for us, to packed Red Rocks. So like it's so rad to see that whole crossover transition in real time. And then I look at them and it's like, man, talk about having so much inspiration to pull from, because like just the ocean. And you think about surfing and it's like, I always think about it, and it's like the one activity that you're literally like submerged in the earth while you're doing it. And it's so amazing. So being able to literally pull inspiration from the earth like that is so rad. So big up to those guys. And I mean, one of the, I don't want to say it's the original one, but a huge example of that obviously is Jack Johnson, because like his whole path of being a pro surfer and coming up with the whole momentum generation, Kelly Slater, Shane Dorian, Ross Williams, Taylor Knox, and Kalani Robb, and all those guys. And then he has a super bad accident at Backdoor Pipeline and totally busts his face. And he takes it as a sign that he needs to go to film school. So he ends up going to Brooks up near Santa Barbara. And little do we know, this whole time when he's making these surf films that end up being such prolific films, September Sessions, and Thicker Than Water, little do we know he's just been writing songs this whole time too. And then he puts them out on like either early versions of them or instrumental versions of what go on to become his whole first record, Brushfire Fairy Tales. And so it's like, I can just imagine how much inspiration he was pulling from going on surf trips, from traveling, from the waves, from Mother Nature, from everything. So rad. And obviously all that we've been blessed from Jack Johnson's just timeless, some of the most timeless music that I've ever heard.
And all those incredible action sports videos from back in the day really, influenced everything. And it brings it back to what we were talking about, with this homage with Operation Irie, where it's like, it's all an homage to that era where like everything was just like a breeding grounds for, exposing you to a different culture, which was really the coolest part about that era.
Yeah, absolutely. And got to give a huge shout out to Taylor Steele, because Taylor Steele that made all the Momentum videos and that whole legacy of surf videos. You have Focus, Good Times, you have Momentum and Momentum One, and then you've got Focus, Good Times. There's a number of others, but I know that Taylor Steele, when he was about to put out Momentum, he wanted to put Pennywise and Bad Religion and all the bands, Sprung Monkey, and all these bands that ended up on those videos. And he ended up calling Mr. Brett from Epitaph. And he wasn't sure that he was going to be able to get this music because he thought it might be too expensive, this and that. But shout out to him for reaching out, and a huge shout out to Mr. Brett, because Mr. Brett just told Taylor that as long as you give us credit in the credits and show the song, artist, record label, and all the info on every song, you can use whatever songs from Epitaph you want. So that was so rad and so smart of Mr. Brett, because he saw the forest through the trees, in my opinion, because he's like, you know what, I don't need to get paid on this right now. Let's just, these surf videos seem like a really robust way of getting music out there. So let's just license it to him for free, and that has paid back tenfold, because I mean, speaking from experience myself, that's where I learned about all these bands, and I'm sure I'm a group of thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands that discovered all these bands as well. And then you think about Momentum too, and that's where I heard the Sublime cover of the Descendants cover that Sublime did of Hope, and I hear that and I'm thinking like, oh, rad, Sublime, this band's sick, like rad, I wonder what the rest of their punk rock sounds like. And then I listen to 40 Ounces of Freedom and I'm like, oh wow, this is a whole different new thing that I've never even experienced before. So it's like, to lead me to that, and then also it's what led me to the Descendants, because that was the first time I'd ever heard a Descendants song was a cover of it. So then being able to go back and dig into all the Descendants stuff was such an amazing blessing as well. So huge shout out to Taylor Steele and Mr. Brett for making that happen with all that rad music and giving such a rad space for everyone to discover it.
Well, and that's the cool thing about this compilation is that, if you're a Pepper fan or a Little Stranger fan, you might come in and discover a Bad Religion song or a Rancid song, or vice versa. Or maybe you get in, you come into the compilation to hear a Green Day song or their take on a Green Day song, and discover Little Stranger, or you discover Ballyhoo or Cydeways or somebody like that. So that's the coolest part, is like, it's definitely, bringing in the possibilities are endless for the rabbit holes you can go down and what you can discover just based off this one compilation.
Absolutely, because I know myself, it's like whenever I find a band that I love, I start looking for anything else that is similar to it. So I really hope that if people are discovering bands for the first time from the compilation, whether it be the band that's covering the song or the original artist, it's just so rad. And my hope is that people just find new music to enrich their life with through the compilation, and it just sparks their musical journey. And it's like touching on what I said before, the world needs music, and I don't think there could ever be too much of it. So let's keep it going.
Absolutely. Yesod, thanks so much for joining us today. I appreciate your time. We could talk all day, but I definitely want everybody to go out and check out Operation Irie, because this is a really cool record, and everybody needs to hear it. So
absolutely, man. And like I said, again, shout out to all the bands that jumped on board. We appreciate you guys so much. Thank you, everyone who's been enjoying listening to it. And yeah, remember to expect a ton more, because it doesn't come out till October 10th, and we're releasing a brand new single every week leading up to the release on October 10th. And yeah, just Law Records here at your service.
hey, thank you, brother. I appreciate you.
Right on, brother. Thank you again.